Hi everyone, hope you all had a restful weekend. We're almost there, just a few more weeks, okay? Today we're gonna go over diversity and inclusion. So last week I had you all do a catch up week. I know a lot of you have been emailing me asking me to open up some assignments, some weekly forums for you all that missed a couple. So I went ahead and did that. And y'all have until, I believe, the 12th, I said, for you all to complete those assignments. Okay, so again, no penalties if you submit those assignments by then. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll be able to answer them. All right, so today we're just gonna go over diversity and inclusion. I just want to show you all this image of how much the United States has changed within just 20 years. So in this graph here, we see a couple different labels. So we see white or Euro American, black or African American, Native American, Asian American, other races, two or more races, Hispanic, Latinx. So taking a look at the first bar on the far left. So looking at the 1980s. Actually, looking at all of them, we can see the blue bar. So Euro Americans make up a large population of the United States. But looking at the 1980s, we see close to 80% of the United States made up of Euro Americans. And then we see African Americans next going into the other groups here up top and on the far left. And then moving all the way to the right, we can see that it's slightly changing. And what I've seen a lot of folks say was that, or I've heard a lot of what folks say, is that there is less and less Euro Americans, but that's not the case. What's happening here is that the population is increasing, and the population of different groups are coming to the United States. That's why we see a huge shift here. Now, the United States in 2010, there's a little bit more than 6% of Euro Americans, and you just see the population just increasing. So as of 2010, there were about 330.5 million people living in the United States. And that has since grown in the past 10 years, 11 years actually. And you can see the same thing with California. Here in California alone, there's about 39.5 million people living in the United States. Starting in the 1980s, we can see there's about a little bit more than 65% Euro Americans, and then around 10% African Americans, and so on. One of the largest groups that has significantly grown within the 20 years is both the Latinx and Asian American population in California. And this is because a lot of immigration towards with a lot of families coming to California from Asia and both Hispanic Latinx families coming here. All right, so let's go over diversity. So throughout this semester, we've talked about various things. So we've gone over what race and ethnicity is. We've gone over how unique everyone is. So diversity just shows how we can recognize how different everyone is, how each individual has different identities. So we can identify as based on our race, our ethnicity, our gender, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. So it's various things that we can talk about with diversity. And that's what's great about the United States. It's so diverse, especially in California. The state of California is one of the most diverse places throughout the United States because of its rich history. So we could talk about how the various groups here in the United States have different backgrounds. So throughout the semester, we've gone over the various Asian American ethnic groups that have come in. And last week, we talked about how ethnic studies has brought various ethnic groups together to fight for the same cause. And we all have different experiences, and then we could bring this all together. And it's what makes California great, and what makes the United States great, because the various experiences, the knowledges and ideas that we have comes together. And then I want to talk about BIPOC. So BIPOC. What does that mean? So it represents Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And the major purpose of this is to include the voices, the history, again, the experiences that haven't been originally heard. But we want all this information from various groups to be talked about. The narrative of people who are darker skinned, the people who are indigenous to this country, indigenous in this land. And we want to be more inclusive and have all this information, history, experiences be presented in our history books and also throughout the media. And it's because usually the people of color, our history and experiences are usually not represented. And it's slowly being pushed out there into the media and into the public. And not a lot of people are very happy about that. But it's good news, and it's also good information for other people to be able to hear and understand the history and experiences of people of color. Now, we run into this question of what does it mean to be bicultural? So a lot of us have grown here in the Bay Area, and how rich in culture San Jose is because of the various immigrant groups that have come here. But there's a lot of places throughout the United States where they only celebrate and understand one culture. A lot of them are closed-minded and don't really kind of appreciate and celebrate other people's culture. I mean, that's not true throughout the whole United States, but many people only focus on one culture. There are people who are mixed, who are torn between two cultures, and there are people who are multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic groups who kind of struggle through that. It's kind of what I want to talk about Vice President Kamala Harris. Um, Vice President Kamala Harris, she have parents who have PhDs. She grew up here in Oakland, California. She's also the first female president of both African and Southeast Asian descent. Although, when people look at Vice President Kamala, they just see her as African American, and that's what a lot of folks have been labeling her as. She is African American. It's both a negative and positive thing. Negative because people who are closed-minded and don't think about, diversifying our country are actually hurting us. And they think that someone who is a person of color is going to affect our country. It's also good because now we have someone other than who is Euro-American for the past 200 years, 200 plus years, is also in charge, who's helping us. On top of that, she is female too. What people don't really look into also is her ethnic background. Not only she is African American, but she has Indian descent. She has a lot of different. She is multi-ethnic. That's what I'm trying to go with. But a lot of folks in the United States just see her usually as just African American. She's black, and she's female, so it's affecting her. They don't see her ethnic background as anything else but African American. And it's the same thing for former President Barack Obama. You just saw President Barack Obama, as being black, although he is half Euro-American and half African American. They just see him as a black African American or black president who is leading the United States. He faced a lot of prejudices because of his physical appearance. He talks a lot about this in his book, A Promised Land, and I've read through the book. It's really great, um, and it's it opens your mind to see how people really treat you differently based on your skin color. And a lot of us who lived in San Jose for majority of our lives can definitely say that we grew up in a bubble. We're used to seeing other people who are like us. But if you travel and go to different places throughout the United States, you tend to see how people look at you differently. I remember my first experience, being a Asian American going outside of the Bay Area. A lot of people started giving me different looks, especially now too as an adult. With all the knowledge I've gained, I've gone to I moved to a different location outside of the Bay Area, and how everyone looks at me differently. This one restaurant I walked in, being the only Asian American in that whole entire restaurant, everyone just stopped eating and looked at me, and it was unsettling. And so, just that experience and how people treat you based on your looks is what affects people from getting to where they want to and become successful. Luckily, President Obama became successful, and he was able to become president. He worked his way all the way up, and same thing with President Kamala Harris. And same thing with Bruno Mars. He's half Puerto Rican and half Filipino. But when he first came out, a lot of people, just labeled him straight as African American. They didn't realize that he was actually half Puerto Rican and Filipino. Um, it's based on his looks. He doesn't look Euro American. And because I remember when he first came out, a lot of people were just like, "Oh man, he's a brother. He's so cool." And then there was a lot of people who didn't like him because of how he looked. So it's just a lot of racism, a lot of people who are just basing how he looks based on skin color. And then we come to this term of being an American. So what does it mean to be an American? So we could have a bicultural identity, so celebrating more than just one culture. Or we could have a multicultural identity where we celebrate all the different cultures that we have here. We've heard all of this term melting pot theory throughout our lifetimes, where there's a lot of different ethnic groups in the United States, and we're all melted into put together in this one pot. It's actually a negative term though, because what it's really doing is it's mixing all of these cultures, these traditions, and just mixing it together. So we're just basically eliminating all those various cultures and just making this one single culture. So what we were trying to do is, or this term is actually a type of cultural genocide. Same thing with cultural assimilation, where a lot of people think that coming into the United States, we got to get rid of our old traditions. I remember coming here. I'm an immigrant too, so my parents coming here, they did initially wanted me to keep my identity as a Filipino, but then a lot of their friends were telling them, "No, you're in America now. They're not going back to the Philippines, or they don't plan to. Just teach them English. Don't teach them their own language." Fortunately, I was able to continue speaking my language with my parents, but my brother, unfortunately, my younger brother, he wasn't taught the language, and it's because our babysitter at the time just said, "Oh, you have to learn English only because you want to perfect your English, and you're here in America, so you don't need to learn your language, our Filipino language." And that's what happened. It's just destroy or killing our history, our tradition. Um, so what we really want to do is to acculturate, so maintain our language, our tradition, while celebrating the American culture too. But it comes again, what is an American? Because I know when I was in the Philippines too, a lot of folks, when they say the term American, they usually mean a person who is Euro American or European looking, light skin. You never, when I was growing up in the Philippines, I was never told that Filipino could be American. They're still Filipino no matter what. So this type of idea actually comes from colonization, because that is what an American is, someone who is Euro American or European, but a Filipino can't be American. And this idea, this thought process has changed a lot within the past 10, 15 years because people are being more educated. So now a Filipino can be Filipino American. They can be an American. And that's what I want you all to think about. All these terms that are being thrown at us or that we've grown to hear about. What is melting pot theory? What does it mean to assimilate? But no, we just want to be acculturating into this country. And for the past 40, 50 years, there's been a lot of fight for people to be able to get their stories out there, to be able to have our history be heard. These are some very recent events that have been happening, where since the beginning of this pandemic, a lot of Asian Americans have been targeted. A lot of elderly Asian Americans have been attacked because they're Asian and they're thought of bringing, the flu, the COVID-19 flu to other people. Fortunately, there's a lot of these different groups coming together. So there's Chicana, Latinx groups coming together to fight with each other. There's a lot of Black Lives Matters too going on. They're fighting for their narratives, their stories to be heard. And all three different groups, all the various groups that are fighting for their voices, their history, are coming together. There was an event not too long ago here in Milpitas, San Jose area, where there was various ethnic groups coming together to fight against anti-Asian hate. And it was great because you see how people are coming together to fight for the same cause, protecting each other. And that's what it's all about, to help each other out. Because if we continue to fight for our own groups, that's not only hurting each other, we're hurting ourselves. We have to fight for each other, protect each other, have each other's backs. And that's what leads to everyone building a safe community. We're coming together, we're fighting for each other. And that's why a lot of people are going to school to fight internalized or institutional racism. So people go into the system, get an education, go up as high as they can, doing things for their community. It's what they're trying to do so that everyone can be heard. The problems, issues that's happening out in the community can be fixed. So a lot of folks who tend to go to graduate school do research either when you write their master's thesis or write a dissertation for their PhD, they look for things that they hear from the community. So a lot of research is just done to try to help improve or figure out the issues that's happening with the community. And this is based on getting the perspectives from community members and combining all of these to improve the quality of life within that community and also throughout the United States. Just because you do research in one area doesn't mean that it can be completed just like that. It takes some time. It takes years for it to be fixed. And then there's also things that pops up. There's variances that could pop up, and there you would have to kind of figure things out again. But slowly but surely things can be fixed. There's a lot of research where when you do a research thesis or dissertation, most folks try to find something within the community that hasn't been researched on or that hasn't been really explored. But if it has been explored, you can continue doing that research and build a pot on top of that. Excuse me. So when I was going into grad school, I know I had a difficult time finding exactly what I wanted to do, but definitely it was within the mental health area. So mental health is a huge thing within the Asian American community. And then I had to dial it down, kind of narrow it down to one specific area, and it was on the mental health of first generation Filipinos, and then narrow down even more on protective factors. So I wrote my thesis on the protective factors among first generation Filipino Americans. What that means is that what are the positive things that are positively affecting Filipino American immigrants? So things like family, finances, education, things such as that were some of the things that popped up from my research or from what I found. You guys can also take a look at that research. It's open to the public. But same thing, if any of you decide to go into the field or go to grad school, it's going to be like that. You're going to try to find something that hasn't been explored and what you can do to help improve the community. Luckily, when I wrote my thesis a couple years ago, there was only two of us actually who wrote on protective factors. I was able to publish mine first. The other person who wrote it, I met her also. She's from Alaska. And it was great because we got to share ideas with each other. And then we got to share our findings with each other. And it was great. It was really cool. And I want to say the same thing to you. In whatever type of research y'all do, especially those who write a thesis or dissertation, there's a lot of things you can do. So again, there's qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative being writing on the things that are happening per person. So trying to figure out exactly what is happening within the community based on speaking to folks, doing interviews. Quantitative being that you're trying to figure out based on a mass quantity of folks, like throwing out a what is it called? I'm blanking out right now. It's just the asking questions. Just asking various questions, having folks answer those, and then using it into your research. Or you could do mixed methods where you have both qualitative and quantitative interviews with the responses of various people. And that's what I did. I did a mixed methods research. It's pretty fun, and you'll enjoy it. So when doing research for your master's or a PhD, you also have the opportunity of doing a project too. So either one will be fun, and you get to see exactly what are some issues happening in the community. So what I'm trying to build up on here is that no matter if you continue grad school, you want to do research to help your community members. You're trying to find issues and problems, and then you're gathering all this and providing kind of like a suggestion. And that is what's going to improve the community. It's what's going to bring the community together and improve on it. And you can put this into like tech, for example. There's a lot of things that we're putting together, to improve the quality of our lives. What is some issues that we're having that technology can definitely improve on. And we can also find mentors who will be able to help us throughout helping build a community and helping improve our research. So it could be a family, a manager, it could be someone from the community, it could be friends, or a colleague, a coworker, and even influencers. Now, not all influencers are, or actually not just influencers. Not everyone can be a positive mentor. I would always jump from mentors to mentors too, or have multiple mentors. I've had multiple mentors help me do various work for the community too. And also, my supervisor is actually one of my mentors who's helping me provide, help to the community. And by using my research that I've done for when I was in grad school and sharing it with the various Filipino American community members, the leaders. And I know, going back to my research a bit, mental health is stigmatized within Filipino Americans because mental health or the well-being of other folks is usually not talked about. But we sometimes have to destigmatize that, and providing the help, because having your mental health decline can really affect you heavily, a lot. So having mentors there with you, you could even find a mentor now, and then going forwards too. A lot of folks can be a mentor to you to help you find research and helping build your community. Networking is definitely one big thing to do when you're doing research or when you're in a community. Although people say it's good to network, it's good to meet people, but I've mentioned this before in this course, but it's not just about meeting people. It's about networking with folks and getting to know them and developing a close relationship with them. Being able to talk easily with them and understand, the different things that they do and that you do, and you collaborate together. And that's because if you're just meeting people and then out of the blue you reach out, they won't be able to, or they won't even help you out. So being good friends with them is one good way to be able to network, develop that relationship again. Now with technology, there's various types of social media in which way we can connect with folks. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and so on. There's so many ways that we can connect with folks. There's various groups that we can be a part of to, fight for our community members, fight for each other, and help each other out. It's not just posting and saying that you did something, but it's, doing something for your community. It's not just about one person, it's about everyone. And it's kind of the problem that a lot of folks are running into right now, because sometimes it's all about them. And usually, and that shouldn't be the case. It should be about everyone helping each other out. Okay. All right. So that's it for this class. So next class, I want y'all to complete quiz number 3. That's been open for a week. That one is based off of ethnic studies lecture. And then there's an optional quiz number 4, which covers kind of all materials throughout the semester. So there's going to be only a few questions in there, very similar to your other quizzes. And if you've done really well on the first 3 quizzes, then you don't have to take this one. So the lowest quiz will be dropped amongst the 4, okay? And remember, your final project is due this coming Wednesday. Sorry, not this coming Wednesday. Wednesday the 18th, okay? So that's the week of finals. That's the first day of finals. Try to submit it before the end of the day. And your final exam will follow your first 2 midterms, okay? So 60% again will be true, false, fill in the blanks, matching, multiple choice. And then the last 40% will be short essay questions, okay? So you'll have 1 week to complete it, and the 25th will be the last day to complete that assignment, that exam. All right, everyone. Hope you all have a great last few weeks of class. Email me if you have any questions. Talk to y'all later.